It is a beautiful morning in the southern mountains of Appalachia. Still a little on the warm side, but we know the cold will eventually come back, and I think in the next day or so it's forecasted to be a little bit cooler. So today Matt and I are going to work on finishing a job that we started several weeks ago. Was this tree that had fallen before Helene. It didn't have anything to do with that. I guess it was a storm maybe a week or so before that.
Yeah.
Or maybe even before that even. Anyway, Matt did come down here before Helene and saw it out of the creek, so that if we did get a tremendous amount of rain, the creek wouldn't be impeded, but we didn't get any damage here, so that was something we didn't have to worry about. Of course, we're still praying for all the people who did receive that terrible, terrible damage, and their whole lives have just been upended. We're still deep in prayer for them and helping where we can. Anyway, we knew that we could use this wood for firewood, but we've never got to it till today. Luckily this year we sure hadn't needed it because it's been really warm, but this is what we're on our agenda for today.
Yep.
Is to get this out of the creek here and chop it up and put it at least up in the front with the rest of the wood. We'll show you that in a minute, where we've got some more wood stacked in the big garden. And then I think Matt's even going to make me something good to eat. Are you going to make me breakfast down here?
If you talk nice to me, I might.
Okay, I'll talk real nice. Maple is a really pretty wood. Matt was looking at these, at the rings, and then also at these barks, wondering about them. Interesting to think about what happened to the tree. Of course, this tree died. It was rotted from the inside, from the bottom, rotted around the bottom, but someone that knows a lot about trees could read all that, though. Well, just as Matt was about to put it in the bucket, we realized we found out what caused them. You can see nails right there, right there, and then this one pointing to that. So those are somebody's nailed nails in the tree. I wonder if it's my two nephews when they were young, maybe trying to build a tree house or something.
Probably why my saw quit cutting all of a sudden too.
Yeah, Matt may have got into him with his saw. I can never smell sawdust and chainsaws that I don't think of my Papa Wade. And Pap a little bit, but my first thought is Papa Wade. He was a logger. It's just that smell takes me right back to being a little girl when that's what he did for a living. Well, the tree's all gone, so we made pretty quick work out of that. Of course, Matt done all the work. I just helped here and there where I could. Let me tell you though, the tractor sure makes things like that easier. Used to, we would have done this same job and we would have got the wood for the, to use to burn to keep our house warm, but we would have done it with wagons or brute force, whatever, carrying back and forth, and that would have been a much harder thing to do. Probably parked the truck on the other side of the house and then carried back and forth. So the tractor makes it so much easier.
the yoke.
It's your lucky day. I got some hot chocolate. I'm not sure we really need hot chocolate because it's rather warm, but it does taste good. Matt's made me a really good sandwich here. Napkin. Well, we got a little bit of work done.
Got a whole lot left to do. Right there.
This whole big pile of wood is what we get every year from one of our friends who does like right-of-way clearing. So he always has a lot of wood on hand. He doesn't necessarily, it's not his business of selling firewood, but he cuts the things into rounds and he will sell it. So he usually brings us a dump truck load. And we usually get it dumped up at our house. You might have seen that in some of our videos. But this year we dumped it down here because Matt's gonna, as soon as deer season's completed, he's gonna start on the shed that he's gonna build up there. And that's where normally we would dump it, is right where the shed's gonna be. So hopefully once we get Matt gets the shed built, then he can split this. Of course, he could split it anyway if we need it, if winter decides to show up. Yeah. We have a pretty good stockpile at home too, but he could come down here anytime and split some if we needed it. But hopefully once the shed is built, he can split it and put it directly in there, and that will be nice.
It will.
Most people have a place like that to put their wood, and we just don't. We never have. We always wanted to have a place to keep it in the dry, but we haven't. But we've also managed to just kind of make do and heat our house with the wood, even though it would be much better under the shed. That'll be nicer. Daddy told me one time that when he was growing up, he said the same thing. This was many years ago. I don't remember what he was talking about, but he said most people, that's what they did. They stacked their wood, and even in those days, whether it was around the smokehouse or whatever, and of course they had to have the wood then because that was their only heat, and they cooked with it, heated water with it, all those things. But he said, kind of laughed, and he said, but my family was never those people. He said we had a big wood pile. We did have wood, but we never managed to get it all split and stacked nicely like most people. So I guess we're following in his footsteps.
Yep.
He said they would just, when they needed wood every day or so, somebody'd have to go split wood and carry it in, is how they did it. Again, understanding that that's not exactly the best way to do it.
But it works. And back then there was a reason they did. They had so much other stuff going, so much other stuff they just trying to make it. Us on the other hand don't have that much of an excuse.
No. So it'd be really nice to have the shed for Matt's tractor, for the four-wheeler and those kind of things, but it'd be nice to have a place to stack the wood too.
I'm thinking I may put a mailbox up in front of it in case you run me off, and that's where I've got to go.
Your new address.
That way I'll have an address out there.
I said the sawdust back there, the smell reminded me of Papa Wade. Any kind of working with wood really reminds me of him and of Pap. Papa Wade was a pulpwood cutter, so he cut wood. He was a logger. And at different times during Daddy's life, he helped him, especially when I was real young, mostly only then. But then over the years, my uncles would, or my cousins, different people kind of helped him and kind of did it on their own too. So there was always that, especially when I was little with Daddy, that smell of sawdust, but always with Papa Wade. He always smelled like sawdust. That's why I can't smell it, that I don't think of him. But I remember when I was real little and Daddy would work some with Papa Wade, and he'd come home, and I would do the same thing with Papa Wade too when I was little enough to like sit in their laps. If they just come in from work and there'd be little pieces of sawdust maybe in the wrinkles or in their pockets where sawdust had got.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I've told this story before, but when I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's. And I remember one time was working the drive-thru, and, slid open the window to take in those days there was only one window, there wasn't the two like today. Most fast food places have, where you give the money and then you give the food. Anyway, to get the person's money, and it was a man, and he was in his, pickup truck, but I guess they had been logging, cutting trees or whatever, and as soon as I slid the window open, that smell, it was just like I was at home, with Papa or
Mm-hmm.
Daddy. It was that smell of the sawdust. There's still, up until recently at least, and I don't know now, but there was still pulpwood cutters in our area, lots of them, but I don't know now that the mill's closed in Canton if that's where lots of them would either take their chips directly there, or a local little sawmill would, buy the logs and chip them and then send them there. So I don't know.
I don't know what they do now.
A tractor sure does make that job easier, doesn't it?
Gosh, yeah. The way it would have used to have been, we'd have just backed the truck as close as possible and then had to carry all those rounds or roll them. Then have to pick them up and put them in the truck and then handle them. Get the wood pile. You'd have to handle them 2 or 3 times. That's a whole lot nicer. Just throw them in that and push the lever and dump.
Mm-hmm. So where we're sitting, these are some of we're sitting in the big garden here that back behind us there. You can see some of the trees that Matt hopes to trim this winter, or is going to. You don't just hope to, you're going to do it before we plant next year.
They'd go ahead and do it and get them sawed up so they can be dry, and whatever I'm going to burn, we can.
So one of the good things about our friend that brings us the wood is because he does that all the time. He has, like the wood we got is seasoned, like the wood Matt cuts. If he cuts this, it will not be, of course, till probably we need it next year.
Yeah, this this that he brought the other day, this wood's about 2 years old. So it's seasoned pretty decently. It just needs to be split and stacked and continue to dry some. I mean, the best, as dry as you can get, it's the best way to do it. But I mean, it'll take, even in the shed, it'll take on just the ambient moisture in the air, and it won't be completely all the way dry, but it'll be dry enough to burn. I mean, we've lots of times burnt wood that's wasn't ready to burn, but that's all we had, and it won't burn as well and won't create the heat you want, but you just have to make do with what you got. And then knowing that, I always kept a close eye on the chimney, and burning wood that's not all the way seasoned out will build up in your chimney the creosote a little bit more. And I've always kept a close eye on that and kept it cleaned out, and we've never ever had any problem with it.
How many trees down through here you think you'll cut? I mean, you'll cut them all?
No, I'm just gonna cut what's on our side of the creek here. There's about 6 or 7 of them I'm gonna cut.
Some of them you'll leave though,
Yeah.
especially at this end. You won't cut those, will you?
Well, there's a power line over top of us, and it comes at an angle and gets closer. And I don't want to cut them on the power line, since I'm not exactly what you'd call a tree cutter. Basically, just a firewood wood pile cutter is about all I am.
There's a real skill in that.
Gosh, yeah.
When we had Thomas and these guys come and cut the ones on the bank over here, you got to see some of that skill.
Yeah, they were good.
Because they also had to worry about the same power lines on that side. I mean, you know, following that way.
They had to pull a lot of them with a track hoe and a big long rope to keep them off the power line. And they did a good job.
Doing things like this make me miss Daddy too, not just the smell, but he always wanted to be part of anything like this that was going on. He would have been right in the middle of it. He'd have been the one directing other people what to do, but yeah, he would have definitely, there'd been a bunch of people ganged up talking and helping, telling tall tales, laughing, a bunch of stuff.
Yep, picking on one another, telling jokes on one another. Don't get to hear anything much like that anymore. I kind of miss it. About done with that. It's too hot.
Too hot to drink it. Hopefully you'll be able to make some of those same memories with your grandson someday.
I hope so. Get on their feet and get them outside every chance we get and get them doing some of this stuff. They'll enjoy it. Get them in the woods and in the creek, where all the little boys belong, as far as I'm concerned, in the garden.
It's nice to think about how many generations of our family, my family, not necessarily Matt's, but he's part of it now, but have played in this creek.
Oh, yeah.
Ira and Woodrow will be the next one. Get them in there and get them hunting lizards and crawfish and such. They'll enjoy that. Yeah.
Till they get pinched.
Yeah, I was going to say that I liked sharing the folklore. I did all that when I was little too, but if Crawdad pinches you, it's supposed to, the old saying is it won't let go till it thunders.
That's what they say.
Yeah, which would be a long time this year because we've been so dry with no storms, no thunder.
Yeah, it'd be a long pinch.
A long pinch, yeah, for sure. I think the little thing would starve to death if it didn't let go.
I think it would.
Well, we sure hope you enjoyed coming along with us today while Matt finally got that tree. He's been bugging him, wanting it to go ahead and add it to this pile of wood so that he can eventually start on it once he gets the shed completed. So I know he feels good to have that done.
Yeah, the whole holdup of all this is deer hunting.
Yeah.
I don't want to start a big project and get to a point that I can't leave it until I get done hunting.
You're right. And the hunting is, I mean, you enjoy it, there's no doubt about that, but it's also for us because it supplies a lot of the food that we eat, so there's that too. So it's enjoyable, but it's a necessity too. Kind of like gardening for me. I think it's a necessity because I want us to feed our family, you know, something good and wholesome that we know where it come from. But also I enjoy it every minute of it. It's just like I'm like a little kid and I'm in a candy store.
I'll be like a little kid when hunting season's over and I come down here standing here looking at this wood pile with my lip run out, knowing I've got all this work to do and ain't no more hunting left.
No more hunting till next year.
Right.
Yeah, you go squirrel hunting or something though.
Yeah, I probably will.
Yeah. But we're always glad when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia.